players, though, on the football field this time. How does the new guy, Matt Campbell, stack up against the old guy, James Franklin? Look at this against ranked opponents. Franklin going 16-29 at Penn State. Matt Campbell at Iowa State, 14-25, pretty close. But look at top five. Franklin, 1-15. Campbell, 2-2. Fewer resources. Campbell beat the best more often, and that is the bet that Penn State is making with him, which brings us to stop 2 on the tour, Happy Valley. Let's go over to Dave Revson and our guys in State College with more.
Michelle, thanks. And it is pretty clear what Matt Campbell's task here is in the long term in State College. Dave Revson, Jerry DiNardo, Howard Griffith with you. In the immediate term, though, the goal is to build a program and to get this thing headed in the right direction. We had a chance to spend time around him, to watch practice, to meet with his coordinators and players. Big picture impressions here.
Well, he certainly has the talent to get off to a fast start, right? Because the first 3 opponents are really matchup opponents. I think that's a great advantage to a new coach. He has a veteran quarterback that he brought with him that knows the offense. I think that's a real plus. And a defense that runs really well. Deeper, Howard, I think, 2 techniques over the guards than maybe they've been in the past. They've always had the edge rushes, but I like the inside guys on defense.
Yeah, I think they're outstanding. I think the biggest challenge coming into the season when he first took over, obviously, was integrating all of these pieces. And that's always been a big part of what you need to do in today's age of the portal. You've got your high school guys. You've got the guys that you were able to recruit to stay, and also the portal guys coming in. And I think when you think about college football right now, or any sport for that matter, if the players coming in really can show leadership and really can buy into what's going on, it's really about building those relationships. And so much now, these relationships are built so quickly. And you think about, you only have your spring and then you have winter conditioning, you're getting those workouts in, but those are opportunities that you get an opportunity to get to know your teammates. When you come off the field, when you go to dinner, if you're hanging out away from the facility, that's when you get an opportunity to start to build that chemistry that is so important when you bring a new staff in.
You know, Howard, it's interesting. You know, back in the day, right, you had freshmen hosting high school guys, and they got to know them a little bit. This relationship building with the older guys is almost like the NFL, which you obviously would know better than me, but I think they bond so quickly. And when you move from one school to another, you move for a reason, and part of it might be academic, but a lot of it is, you know, you want to accomplish something that you didn't accomplish at the previous school. So I think we're seeing the day and age of a lot of highly motivated older people joining programs, making it much easier to watch a practice like today.
Where it's really interesting here is that 24 of those players come from Iowa State. Right. They have the familiarity with Matt Campbell, Taylor Mauser, they know, the offensive coordinator. I mean, you look at the quarterback. They have the top 3 pass catchers from Iowa State last year. They have the leading rusher from Iowa State. They have the top 4 tacklers from Iowa State. So you put this all together, and you do have more continuity than you would otherwise have. What's the challenge in terms of integrating that group, those guys who know the system and know these coaches, with the players who stayed here and then those who came from other places? How challenging is that?
I think it's a challenge. I mean, I haven't lived through it. I think it's coaching. I mean, I think the coach that brings in someone in the portal that he hadn't coached, you know, there's a lot of meetings that go on during the recruiting process, just like if you were recruiting a freshman. And then I think you lean on the guys that you did bring with you and say, hey, I was with this coach, but I'm also a portal guy, so I have something in common with you. We'll make this work.
In the reality, they're all chasing championships. They all want to be a part of something special. So when you have a team, everyone wants to buy in, particularly if the gentleman in the front of the room is an outstanding leader, and he really starts to build that culture, not just from the front of the room, but also has his assistant coaches and his assistants that are able to step up, and the players that come in through the portal. That's what it's really about, and I think that's one of the reasons we've seen this happen throughout college athletics now, where teams are quickly able to hit the ground running, and part of that is being because they're both chasing, both coaches and players are chasing that goal of being a champion.
I think the specific challenge Matt Campbell has is the reason he's in this situation, and we've talked about this off air, is the problem Penn State's had beating the best teams in the conference, which are the best teams in the country. He's going to have to address that. And by the schedule, it looks like they have a good chance to win the first 3 non-cons, and then they go Wisconsin and Northwestern. I mean, that's a good schedule. At some point, he has to do something that coaches have been fired for not having done. And so that's his particular challenge. And bringing the 24 or 14 players with him may help him do that.
And remember, he had 4 top 10 wins in his time at Iowa State. They had 8 in the history of the program before he got there. So he has certainly done this. Let's dive into some of the specifics of what we saw. He brought his quarterback with him in Rocco Becht. I mentioned the wide receivers, the running back. I mean, there's this core of players who have played together. What stood out as you watched this offense?
Really, the way they fly around. There's a great understanding of what's happening here, and I think ultimately it starts at the quarterback position. To me, I think when you talk about just how technically sound he is as a passer, as a runner, understanding what defenses are trying to do, he makes quick decisions with the football. He's not going to be in a situation where he's going to be kind of wondering where the ball needs to go. He knows that because he's played so much football. He's watched so much film. Sure, the scheme is going to change a little bit from what it was at Iowa State, but that's part of it. He's going to be a part of how you develop this game plan moving forward. Any quarterback of his talent level and what he brings to the table is going to have an opportunity and has built the trust with the coaching staff to be able to have input when he starts to talk about what he likes to throw, the run game that's there. He's going to have a chance to be a part of that.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is still the run game, which comes down to the offensive line. They still have a long way to grow in the offensive line. Again, you look at the schedule, you look at camp, they have a chance to develop. But the problem here, all 19 previous years that we've covered Penn State, their offensive line never looked or played like the great teams in our conference and the great teams in the country. And I think that's the goal. It's going to take some time. This is when you try to build an offensive line, it takes longer to build an offensive line than any other position. And so Coach Campbell's going to have to do that to have the success that is expected of him.
And more disparate parts in putting that line together. He's got one starter he brought from Iowa State, some other portal guys. Malachi Goodman, highly recruited, is going to be a star. I think that's pretty evident, but he's going to be thrown into that offensive line this year. So we'll see how that all comes together. And as you say, they do have somewhat of the luxury of time, just given the way that the schedule lays out. You thought the defense was ahead of the offense. Why?
I did, because of the 2 techniques. The 2 defensive linemen are lined up on the guards. They can push the middle. They've always had edge rushers. I'm not sure they have as good edge rushers now than they've had. But if I had a choice between really having 2 really good 2 techniques, I think I'd start there and then make sure I had the edge rushers. So I think they're going to be good on the defensive line. I think defense is always ahead of offense. Was the first or second day in pads, right? So it looked like the defense was ahead. And you know, they've got a great staff. I think they'll be fine defensively.
Yeah, I think Granville is going to give them that punch that they need, getting back to 100%, coming off the knee injury, coming off the edge. He's really dynamic and twitchy, and they don't have guys like him on the roster right now. So if they can get him healthy, I think that gives them a big push of trying to get the pressure. But I think you're right, Coach, when you start to talk about what they have inside, they went into the portal and addressed that. They've got some guys in there that are going to be able to push the pocket and make things difficult for guards and tackles or centers.
And not to beat a dead horse to death, but, you know, the schedule is good because the defense can probably hold the first 5 games in somewhat not being high power and let the offense develop.
We will start to get those answers. Opening game against Marshall over on FS1, Michelle.